The breaking point. Dr. Maya Rivera stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her dark eyes reflecting the red warning indicators that flashed across the data streams. The Araxian homeworld was dying. Their atmosphere was rapidly deteriorating, and with it, an entire civilization of over 8 billion souls hung in the balance. She had the solution, a relatively simple one by human standards, but the Galactic Confederation's Assessment Committee had just denied her emergency petition for the third time. The message floating before her was almost comical in its bureaucratic detachment. Petition XJ7249 denied due to insufficient risk assessment protocols and concerns regarding proposed implementation timeline. Maya's fingers clenched around her coffee mug, the ceramic creaking in protest. 6 months. They wanted 6 months of environmental impact studies before they would even consider approving a rescue mission. The Araxians had less than 3 weeks. Dr. Rivera, her eye assistant's voice interrupted her thoughts. Admiral Chen is here to see you. Maya looked up as Admiral Sarah Chen strode into her office, her uniform perfectly pressed despite the late hour. The Admiral's presence here, in a xenobiology lab on Europa Station, could only mean one thing. The situation had escalated beyond scientific channels. I read your report, Chen said without preamble, her lined face grave, and I saw the committee's response. Walk me through it again, Doctor. Everything. Maya gestured to the holographic display, expanding it to fill the center of the room. The Araxian homeworld rotated slowly before them, atmospheric data streaming across its surface like wounds. 3 months ago, the Araxians detected increased levels of chlorofluoride compounds in their upper atmosphere. They're a Class II civilization, advanced enough for space travel, but lacking in certain key technologies. They couldn't determine the source. Maya manipulated the display, zooming in on the planet's larger continent. 2 weeks ago, they figured it out. A dormant volcanic system had awakened, releasing massive amounts of trapped gases. The compound is eating away at their ozone layer. At current rates, their planet will be uninhabitable in 20 days. Chen studied the data with narrowed eyes. And your solution? Simple atmospheric transformation using modified Earth-based technologies. We've been doing it for centuries on our own colonies. We inject a stabilizing compound into the upper atmosphere using high-altitude drones. The compound binds with the chlorofluoride, neutralizing it. The whole process would take about 72 hours. And the committee's objections. Maya's laugh was bitter. They say our methods are unnecessarily aggressive. That we're not accounting for potential side effects. That we need to run more simulations. She gestured to another display. I've run 10,000 simulations. The success rate is 99.7%. The remaining 0.3% still result in better conditions than doing nothing. Chen was silent for a long moment, studying the data. How many ships would you need? Maya blinked. 3 atmospheric processors. 5 support vessels for the drone launches. But Admiral, the committee. To hell with the committee. Chen's voice was steel. I've spent 15 years watching them treat us like reckless children because we come from what they call a death world. They've restricted our expansion, limited our development, and now they're going to let billions die because they think we're too aggressive in our solutions. She turned to face Maya. Do you know what happened on Proxima B last year? Maya shook her head. A Class III civilization was attempting their first terraforming project. They followed all the Confederation's protocols perfectly, took every precaution. The project failed catastrophically. Do you know who they called for help? Not the Confederation. They called us. Humans. The primitive Deathworlders. We stabilized their atmosphere in under a week. Chen began pacing, her movements precise and controlled. The galaxy sees us as dangerous because we evolved on a world that tried to kill us at every turn. They don't understand that surviving Earth didn't make us reckless. It made us experts at surviving the unsurvivable, at saving others from hostile environments. She stopped, fixing Maya with an intense gaze. "How quickly can you have your team ready?" Maya's heart raced. 12 hours. "But Admiral, this would be a direct violation of Confederation law. We could lose our membership status." "Perhaps it's time we showed the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of when we stop playing by their rules." Chen's smile was sharp. "I'll have your ships ready in 10 hours. I suggest you start preparing your team, Doctor." As Chen turned to leave, Maya called after her. "Admiral, when the Confederation finds out, they'll do what they always do. They'll try to stop us because they think we're being reckless. But here's what they never understood about humans, Dr. Rivera." Chen's eyes gleamed. "We'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And we'd rather be condemned for saving lives than praised for following protocols while billions die." Maya turned back to her displays, already calculating supply needs and deployment patterns. For the first time in months, she felt truly alive. This was what humans were meant to do, not to sit in committees and debate protocols, but to face impossible challenges and overcome them. As she worked, a message from Chen appeared on her screen. "Operation designation: Prometheus. Because sometimes you have to steal fire from the gods to save humanity. Good hunting, Doctor." Maya smiled and began to type her team notifications. The Confederation was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humans. But more importantly, the Orcsians were about to learn why humans had become the galaxy's unofficial experts in surviving the unsurvivable. The Galactic Confederation imposes strict regulations on human expansion. Dr. Maya Rivera, lead xenobiologist, discovers a devastating plague on an alien world. Bureaucratic red tape prevents immediate intervention. First contact with the Orcsians, a species facing extinction. Rising to the challenge. The Europa Station's emergency hangar buzzed with controlled chaos as Maya's team worked through their pre-launch checklist. Equipment that would normally take weeks to prepare was being readied in hours. The massive atmospheric processors, each the size of a small building, hummed as engineers ran final diagnostics. "Status report," Maya called out, moving between workstations with rapid precision. Her tablet displayed a countdown. 18 days until total atmospheric collapse on Araxia. Dr. James Wong, her atmospheric specialist, looked up from his console. "We've modified the drone delivery systems for Araxian atmospheric conditions. Had to completely recalibrate the dispersal patterns. Their air pressure is 30% higher than Earth standard." "The stabilizing compound?" Maya asked, already moving to the next station. "That's where it gets interesting." Dr. Aisha Patel, their chemical engineer, pulled up a molecular diagram. "We couldn't synthesize enough of the standard compound in time, so we got creative." She grinned, the expression pure human ingenuity. "Remember those mining operations on Venus?" Maya stopped. "The atmospheric scrubbers. But those are industrial grade." "Exactly. We're repurposing them. The basic chemical structure is similar enough to what we need. With some modifications, we can use them to bind the chlorofluoride compounds just as effectively. It's not elegant, but it'll work," Maya finished. "How much can we produce?" "Enough for 3 full dispersal runs. We'll have redundancy." A klaxon sounded, and Admiral Chen's voice came over the station's comm system. "Attention all personnel. Confederation patrol ships detected entering the system. Estimated time to arrival: 40 minutes. Maya's team paused for just a moment before doubling their pace. They'd known this was coming. The Confederation wouldn't just let them violate direct orders. "Dr. Rivera to the command center." Chen's voice came again, private this time. Maya found Chen studying tactical displays, her expression grim. "They're moving faster than we anticipated," the Admiral said without looking up. 3 heavy cruisers, likely carrying their own atmospheric modification equipment. "They'll try to force us to use their approved methods." "Their methods would take weeks to implement," Maya said. "The Araxians don't have weeks." "I know. That's why we're launching now." Chen finally looked up, her eyes hard. Your team ready? Maya blinked. We're still running final checks. They'll have to finish en route. I've just received word that the Confederation has issued arrest warrants for both of us, citing reckless endangerment of a protected species. Chen's laugh was sharp. Apparently, trying to save them is more dangerous than letting them die. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Maya's tablet lit up with urgent messages from her team. The Confederation ships had accelerated. They'd arrive in 20 minutes, not 40. Go, Chen ordered. Get your team on those ships. I'll handle the Confederation. They'll try to stop us by force. Let them try. Chen's smile was dangerous. We're not the only ones who think the Confederation's protocols need changing. I've called in some favors. Just focus on saving the Oraxians. Maya ran back to the hangar, shouting orders as she went. Her team scrambled into position, loading equipment that was still running diagnostics. The massive hangar doors began to open, revealing Europa's starlit surface. Listen up, Maya called out to her assembled team. This isn't going to be pretty. We're launching before we're ready. We'll be completing preparations in transit, and we'll probably have company trying to stop us. But right now, there are 8 billion people counting on us, even if they don't know it yet. She looked at their faces, human faces, all of them bearing that unique expression of determined focus that their species wore when faced with impossible odds. The Confederation thinks we're reckless because we move faster than they do. They don't understand that humans learn to move fast because sometimes being slow means being dead. They think we're aggressive because we're willing to take risks. They don't understand that sometimes the biggest risk is taking no risk at all. The ship's engines began to power up, filling the hangar with a deep thrum. Today, we're going to show them why humans became the galaxy's greatest survivors. Not because our world was harsh, but because that harshness taught us to never, ever give up. Because it taught us that the only failure is in not trying. Emergency launch protocols began their countdown. Maya strapped into her command chair. They call Earth a death world. Well, today they're going to learn what death world survivors can do. Launch sequence engage. Let's go save a planet. The ships lifted off in perfect formation, breaking free of Europa's gravity, well just as the first Confederation warnings began broadcasting. Maya watched her tactical display as multiple new signatures appeared, ships dropping out of FTL travel. But they weren't Confederation vessels. Admiral Chen's voice came through once more. Backup has arrived. The Proxima colony send their regards. Apparently, they haven't forgotten who saved them last year. You have your corridor, Doctor. Make it count. As their small fleet accelerated toward FTL, Maya allowed herself a small smile. The Confederation was about to learn an important lesson about humanity. They weren't just survivors of a death world. They were its graduates. And now, they were going to put that education to use. Humans secretly prepare a rescue mission despite restrictions. Development of innovative solutions using primitive Earth technologies. Formation of the Human Emergency Response Division, HEARD. The true nature of human adaptability is revealed. The intervention. The Oraxian homeworld hung in the viewport like a jewel wrapped in poison, its atmosphere visibly distorted by the chemical contamination. Maya's fleet had arrived ahead of schedule, thanks to some creative navigational work that would have given Confederation safety inspectors heart attacks. Atmospheric analysis coming in, Dr. Wong reported, his voice tense. It's worse than our projections. The degradation is accelerating. Maya studied the data scrolling across her screen. They'd lost another 2 days of safety margin during their transit. How long? 16 days until total collapse. But the damage will be irreversible in 10. Status of the Confederation fleet. Still 3 hours behind us, her tactical officer reported. But they're pushing their engines hard. The Proxima ships are running interference, but they can't hold them forever. Maya nodded. Then we work faster. Begin drone deployment. I want the first wave ready in 30 minutes. That's impossible. One of the junior engineers protested. The deployment schedule requires at least 2 hours for proper calibration. The schedule was written by people who never had to outrun death. Maya cut in. We're humans. The impossible is our specialty. 30 minutes. Make it happen. The next 25 minutes were a blur of activity. Maya's team worked with the kind of focused intensity that humans only achieved when everything was on the line. Equipment was modified on the fly. Protocols were rewritten, and safety margins were pushed to their absolute limits. The first wave of drones launched precisely on schedule, spreading out across Araxia's upper atmosphere like a swarm of metallic insects. Maya watched their progress on the tactical display, her heart in her throat. Everything hinged on this initial deployment. First chemical dispersal in 3, 2, 1. The drones released their payload, a modified version of the Venus mining scrubbers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sensors exploded with data. It's working, Dr. Pidal exclaimed. The binding rate is even higher than we calculated. The chlorofluoride compounds are breaking down exactly as predicted. A cheer went up from the crew, but Maya's relief was short-lived. New alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL, Tactical announced. Confederation heavy cruisers. They're launching interceptors. How many? 3 squadrons. They're on an intercept course with our second wave of drones. Maya's mind raced. The first wave had been successful, but they needed all 3 deployments for full coverage. If the Confederation stopped them now, Dr. Rivera, her communications officer, called out. We're being hailed. It's the Confederation flagship. A holographic display activated, showing a stern-faced Confederation official. Dr. Rivera, you are in violation of multiple safety protocols and direct orders. Stand down immediately, or we will be forced to take action. Maya stood, facing the projection. With all due respect, Counselor, we will not stand down. Your protocols would condemn billions to death. We're going to save them, with or without your permission. You're using untested modifications of industrial equipment. The risks. The risks of doing nothing are certain death. Maya interrupted. We've already successfully deployed the first wave. The atmospheric stabilization is working exactly as we predicted. Look at your own sensors if you don't believe me. Nevertheless, we cannot allow. A new voice cut into the transmission. Perhaps you should observe before passing judgment. Maya recognized the distinctive harmonics of an Araxian voice. A new hologram appeared. First Speaker Cax of the Araxian Science Council. We have been monitoring the human intervention. Cax continued, their iridescent scales shifting with emotion. Their methods are unconventional, but our own readings confirm their success. The atmospheric degradation is already slowing in the treated areas. First Speaker, the Confederation official sputtered. You don't understand the potential dangers. What we understand, Cax interrupted, is that while the Confederation spent 6 months debating protocols, the humans spent 6 hours saving our world. We are formally requesting that the human fleet be allowed to complete their mission, under Article 7 of the Sovereign Rights Charter. A tense silence followed. Article 7 was clear. Any species could request emergency aid from another, bypassing Confederation protocols in extreme circumstances. Second wave ready for launch, Wong reported quietly. Maya held the Confederation official's gaze. We're launching with or without your approval. The only question is whether you'll help or hinder us. Another moment of silence. Then, stand down the interceptors. The official's voice was resigned. But this isn't over, Dr. Rivera. There will be consequences. There are always consequences, Maya replied. I'd rather face the consequences of saving lives than those of following protocols while billions die. Second wave, launch. As the drones deployed, Maya watched the atmospheric readings continue to improve. They would succeed. The Araxians would survive. And perhaps, just perhaps, the galaxy would begin to understand why humans had become so good at doing the impossible. Dr. Rivera, First Speaker Cax said privately after the Confederation channel close, "My people owe you a debt we can never repay." Maya shook her head. "No debt. This is what humans do. We see people in danger, we help. It's that simple. The Confederation calls you reckless. The Confederation has never had to evolve on a world that tried to kill them every day," Maya replied. "They don't understand that sometimes being careful gets more people killed than being bold." As the second wave of drones began their dispersal, Maya allowed herself a small smile. The mission would succeed. The Araxians would survive. And the galaxy was about to learn an important lesson about humanity's true nature. Herd launches unauthorized mission to save the Araxians. Demonstration of human ingenuity in hostile environments. Confederation attempts to stop the mission. Success against all odds using unconventional methods. Ripples across the stars. 1 month after the Araxian intervention, Maya found herself standing before the Galactic Confederation's High Council. The chamber was packed, not just with council members, but with representatives from dozens of species who had demanded to witness these proceedings. The past 4 weeks had transformed the political landscape of the galaxy. The successful salvation of Araxia had sparked a debate that threatened to tear apart the Confederation's carefully maintained order. Maya knew that this hearing wasn't really about her actions. It was about what those actions represented. High Counselor Vex, a towering crystalline being, spoke first. "Dr. Maya Rivera, you stand accused of violating 17 separate safety protocols, endangering a protected species, and defying direct council orders. How do you plead?" Before Maya could respond, a voice rang out from the gallery. "I request to speak." First Speaker Cax of the Araxians rose, their scales shimmering under the chamber's lights. "As the supposedly endangered species in question, we have something to say." The council chamber erupted in murmurs. It was unprecedented for a protected species to interrupt High Council proceedings. But much about the past month had been unprecedented. "Our world is alive," Cax continued, their voice carrying across the chamber. "Our children still breathe our air. Our civilization continues. Not because of Confederation protocols, but because humans dared to defy them." Another figure stood, a representative from Proxima B. "We too wish to speak. When our terraforming project failed last year, it wasn't Confederation emergency teams that saved us. It was humans. They came without permission then too. And we live because of it." More representatives began to stand. Maya watched in amazement as species after species rose to speak, each with a story of human intervention, of impossible situations resolved by what the Confederation called reckless methods. "Order," High Counselor Vex demanded, but the chamber had moved beyond their control. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber. Admiral Chen's doing, Maya knew. It showed a map of the galaxy, with points of light indicating every emergency response humanity had mounted in the past decade. The lights spread across the map like stars being born. "You call us reckless," Maya finally spoke, her voice quiet but carrying. "You call us dangerous because we move faster than your protocols allow. But let me show you something." She gestured, and the display changed to show the aftermath of various crises. These are the situations where species followed all Confederation protocols perfectly. Count the casualties. Compare them to our interventions. We're not reckless. We're efficient. We're not dangerous. We're effective. You can't simply ignore established safety protocols. Vex began. Safety protocols written by species who evolved on gentle worlds. Maya interrupted. "You don't understand humans because you don't understand what Earth taught us. We learned to act quickly because hesitation meant death. We learned to take calculated risks because sometimes playing it safe is the most dangerous choice of all." She turned to address the entire chamber. "In the past month, 27 worlds have formally requested human emergency response teams. They don't want to wait for Confederation approval when disasters strike. They don't want to watch their people die while committees debate protocols." Admiral Chen stepped forward from her position near the chamber entrance. which is why we're announcing the formation of the Human Emergency Response Division, HERD. Any world can request our help directly, bypassing Confederation oversight. You can't, Vex started. We already have, Chen cut in. 42 worlds have signed agreements, including, I might add, 3 council member worlds. She smiled as several council members shifted uncomfortably. They've seen what we can do. They know that when disaster strikes, you want humans on your side. Maya took over again. You can censure me. You can try to punish humanity for saving lives. But ask yourselves this. When your world is burning, when your people are dying, when every second counts, do you want to wait for a committee to approve action? Or do you want the species that looked at a death world and said, we can survive this on your side? The chamber fell silent. Maya could see the conflict in their faces, the ingrained fear of humanity's reckless nature wrestling with the undeniable evidence of their effectiveness. Finally, a new voice spoke, one of the eldest council members, a Venturi whose species had achieved spaceflight before humans had invented the wheel. Perhaps we have been looking at this wrong. We saw humans as dangerous because they survived a death world. But we never considered that surviving such a world might create exactly the kind of species the galaxy needs. The ancient being turned to address its fellow council members. We pride ourselves on our careful, measured approach. But the universe is not always careful or measured. Sometimes, you need a species that has evolved to face the impossible and win. Sometimes, you need humans. Maya felt the mood in the chamber shift. She could see understanding finally dawning in their eyes. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was helping to change it. As the council began to debate the formation of new emergency response protocols, Maya's communicator buzzed. Another distress call, another world in need. She smiled. The council could debate all they wanted. Humanity would do what they'd always done. They would help. They would save. They would succeed. Because that's what Deathworlders do. Other species begin requesting human assistance. Confederation faces internal conflict over human capabilities. Formation of new alliances based on mutual respect. Humans establish independent emergency response network. A new understanding. 6 months after the Araxian intervention, the observation deck of Europa Station offered a perfect view of what many were calling the greatest transformation in galactic history. Below, a steady stream of ships arrived and departed, vessels from dozens of different species, all bearing the same distinctive emblem, a stylized human hand reaching out to the stars, the new symbol of Herd. Maya stood at the window, watching a massive Venturi medical cruiser dock. The ship had been retrofitted with human emergency response technology, a combination that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Quite a view, isn't it? Admiral Chen's voice came from behind her. Hard to believe this all started with one act of defiance. Maya turned to face her superior officer, noting the new insignia on Chen's uniform. Director of Interspecies Emergency Coordination. How are the new joint training programs going? Better than anyone expected. Chen moved to stand beside her at the window. Turns out a lot of species were secretly fascinated by human methods. They just needed permission to admit it. She smiled. The Araxians have been particularly enthusiastic students. I heard they're implementing their own emergency response protocols based on our model, along with 17 other worlds. Chen handed Maya a tablet. But that's not why I'm here. Take a look at this. Maya scanned the document, her eyes widening. The Confederation is officially adopting human emergency response protocols as the galactic standard. I thought they were still debating. The debate ended yesterday. You can thank the Venturi for that. Their entire High Council voted in favor, said something about how wisdom isn't just about knowing when to be cautious, but knowing when to be bold. Through the window, they watched as a team of human trainers guided a mixed group of aliens through emergency response drills. The sight of a crystalline Vex working alongside a methane-breathing Corpathy would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. We're getting more applications for the training program than we can handle, Chen continued. Every major species wants to learn what they call the human approach. Though I'm not sure they fully understand what that means yet. They will, Maya said softly. They're already starting to see what we've known all along, that being from a death world isn't about being aggressive or reckless. It's about understanding that sometimes the greatest risk is inaction. That sometimes you have to move fast, think creatively, and be willing to break the rules to save lives. Her communicator chimed. Another emergency alert. But this time, it wasn't just human ships responding. The new joint response teams were already moving, combining human ingenuity with alien technologies in ways that were revolutionizing emergency response across the galaxy. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Maya asked. When you gave me the go-ahead for the Araxian mission. Chen's expression was thoughtful. I hoped we'd save their world. I didn't expect we'd end up changing the galaxy. She paused. Though maybe I should have. That's what humans do, isn't it? We see problems, and we fix them. We see barriers, and we break them. Not because we're reckless, but because we understand something the rest of the galaxy is only now beginning to learn. What's that? That the universe doesn't care about protocols. It doesn't wait for committees or follow safety guidelines. When disaster strikes, you need people who are ready to face the impossible and find a way through. You need people who looked at a death world and said, we will not only survive, we will thrive. Chen smiled. You need humans. Below them, the emergency response teams completed their drill. The mixed species crew moved with a synchronization that would have seemed impossible months ago. Human adaptability combined with alien technologies, death world determination, merged with the unique capabilities of a dozen different species. Maya's communicator chimed again, a priority alert from a distant system. Without hesitation, she pulled up the details, already calculating response times and resource requirements. But now, she didn't have to do it alone. Within seconds, representatives from 3 different species had joined the emergency channel, each bringing their own unique perspectives and capabilities to the problem. This was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not just their ability to survive, but their determination to ensure others survived as well. They had taken what their death world had taught them and turned it into something greater, a way to protect life throughout the galaxy. As Maya coordinated with her alien counterparts, planning their response to the latest crisis, she couldn't help but smile. The galaxy had feared what humanity's death world origins had made them. Now they were beginning to understand what it had really created. A species that looked at the impossible and saw opportunity, that faced disaster and found solutions, that took the harsh lessons of their world and used them to become the guardians of life across the stars. The Confederation had wanted to protect humanity from themselves. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy a vital lesson. Sometimes the strongest people come from the harshest places, and sometimes what looks like recklessness to others is simply the courage to do what needs to be done. As the Joint Response Fleet prepared to launch, Maya knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had found their place in the galaxy not by conforming to its rules, but by showing why those rules sometimes needed to be broken. They had turned their death world heritage from a mark of concern into a badge of honor. Because in the end, that's what humans do. They survive. They adapt. They protect. And now, finally, the galaxy understood why. Confederation must acknowledge human potential. Integration of human methods into galactic society. Establishment of new protocols for emergency response. The galaxy learns why underestimating humans was their greatest mistake.